They have the most expensive maintenance of any fucking car on the market.
You right.
I started this, by the way. We're starting on that. All right, so we're going to do a little barrel-proof weeder lineup. We're going to start with the Weller Antique, which we've obviously done before, but always good to revisit now that it's been open another month longer. So, nose isn't really much different.
I get a little more cherry, but that's also just Buffalo Trace in general.
Right.
It still does have vanilla. It has cinnamon.
A little bit of brown sugar.
A little bit of brown sugar. Not much caramel. Maybe toffee.
I can see it.
Surprisingly, not much ethanol. Although, even whenever it was freshly opened, it didn't have a huge ethanol hit on the nose.
Right. It is worth noting that this also isn't just regular Old Weller Antique either.
No, this is a single barrel, so there is that point to make.
So, in my opinion, a good single barrel. But
yeah.
It's a single barrel.
Yeah, it's not super sweet, but it's like a bourbon for sure. A sweeter bourbon, just not like a dessert bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Has a little more heat up front than I remember.
And I think it has less heat, honestly.
Really?
On the front end, I get like cherry, vanilla, and not brown sugar and not caramel. I guess it is toffee, so like...
It could be also like... It's almost like a cocoa. Like a raw cocoa, not like chocolate.
I get that more towards like the middle and the finish. Like...
Right.
Originally, the finish was like cinnamon bark. This is like... it still has cinnamon bark, but it definitely has cocoa nib in it. Because I eat straight cocoa nibs, and this tastes a lot like straight cocoa nibs. No, the palate is really sweet. It starts off with a lot of vanilla, a lot of toffee, a lot of... let me taste it again. Vanilla toffee, I guess milk chocolate. But yeah, no, the finish is definitely like cinnamon bark, red hot, like cinnamon red hots throughout. And then the cocoa nibs.
It definitely has a pleasant warmth to it.
It does.
All throughout.
Like
it lingers for a while still.
It does. Like the aftertaste is exactly that of cocoa nibs, because cocoa nibs will take like...
It definitely has that it like the longer it sits, the more the cocoa and the toffee and the brown sugar, all those kinds of flavors sort of linger longer than everything else does.
Yeah, because it has some bitterness, but it's not like a leather or tobacco bitterness, and it's definitely not a tannic bitterness. There's
it's like
not
it's like a spicy bitterness, like cocoa.
It's like cocoa. It's like like actual cinnamon spice
like in its raw form.
Yeah, like
not,
if you were to
like
sprinkle cinnamon on your tongue, you would get like the cinnamon flavor, but you would also get bitterness from.
We're doing the liquid cinnamon challenge, everybody.
I wouldn't go that far. This is a lot more.
No, it's. Yeah, this is definitely. I mean, that's not palatable. This is very much palatable.
So, no, I definitely think it opened up a little bit more, and, like, originally, before we were saying, like, this needed water, and it, like, turned it around completely, this is actually sippable neat now. Mm-hmm. Like, an really
Agreed.
enjoyable neat.
Agreed. You're making noise in our video.
How dare you?
How far up did you walk?
All the way up to Forbes.
I was going to say, you have Cold Stone. Jesus.
Yeah, and the sushi place was like a block down Forbes as well.
Nice.
I made some bad choices.
No, sushi's always a good choice.
Yeah, there's so is ice cream.
There's no such thing as you are holding two good choices.
You've made very good choices tonight.
I was gonna say I don't really have much else to say about this because we already went over this. It's just all about the nuances that changed with it sitting.
Well, that's the other thing too is that Old Weller Antique is really simple. Like if you think about it, like 5 years ago, this was a $27 bottle of whiskey. And it only went up because there was just a bunch of hype around it.
Right. And here's the thing, too. Like, it's worth the price we can get it for now, too. Like, it's simple, but it's really good in it.
Oh, yeah, no. At $40, this is an easy
Even
buy.
going to Ohio, buying it for $50, yeah, I would. Now, I wouldn't go to paying much higher, but it's just like people who buy Weller Special Reserve for $50. They're out of their minds.
Yeah, that's honestly.
I would spend 50, maybe 60 on the high end if I never had it, or I haven't been able to find it for a while, and I want to have that bottle on my shelf.
I would say it would probably take me like 3 or 4 years of not having Old Weller Antique to spend more than $60 on it.
Exactly.
Because it is good, but it is simple. Like this is
or
not.
If it's my daily sipper and it's suddenly not available at all,
yeah.
and I have the money to pay a little bit more for it, I would pay more for it.
Yeah.
But like.
It's just not a complex whiskey. It's simple,
right.
but it has enough going on that like you get a bunch of different flavors, but it's not like.
And it's complex enough that it getting air changes it dramatically. Like I mean, we obviously like. Again, we had to add water before. That was a month ago. Now we're sipping it different, and it tastes. Almost, I don't want to say completely different, but a lot of the little nuances of it changed.
Oh yeah, no, like. Originally, whenever we first opened it, it literally, like, the finish was literally cinnamon bark. It literally tasted like you were chewing on a piece of, like a cinnamon stick. Now it's, like, cocoa and, like, cinnamon bark, but it's enjoyable. It's like if you threw cocoa nibs and cinnamon bark into water and let it sit for a while, that's what the finish is like. So it's a lot more, like, enjoyable neat, I would say.
Yeah, and that's what makes even a good, simple whiskey is air affects it for the better. Like,
to an extent. I mean,
obviously, if you let it air out forever, you're gonna...
Yeah, if you let it air out for over a year, and it's like around half full for over a year, you're going to notice some serious differences that aren't necessarily positive.
Right.
But yeah, no, this still has warmth, this still has vanilla, it still has brown sugar, it has...
It's like it's at a sweet spot now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because it's been open for how long? Maybe a month and a half, 2 months now, I guess?
I think, yeah, because I got it in, like, December, I think.
We had to have opened it in January.
Yeah, it was open
January,
in, like, January.
Because we first opened it when you came over to join us for, I think, the first time. Then it was all three of us.
I remember honestly.
I think so. Well, I'm just posting all these videos, so I think it was the first time.
I know I opened it with you. I don't remember which time I opened it with you, because this is, like, the third or fourth time I brought it over here.
It might be the third, then. Yeah. But... I've liked it more every time.
Oh, no, I agree with that. And I haven't touched it since the last time I was here.
So,
there's just so much that I have. That being said, I would definitely take this over Maker's Mark 101.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I traded a bottle of this for Maker's Mark 101. Hands down.
Yeah. Did you get regular antique or did you get another store pick?
Regular antique.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, so you have both?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we can do that comparison at some point. But
I was going to say because I have mine, but I'm keeping it closed pending that trade. So.
Well, honestly, I would definitely trade for a bottle of Rebel Yell 10-year.
Yeah.
Rebel Yell 10-year.
I told you about that trade, right?
No.
I'm trading my Weller Antique for Rebel Yell 10-year.
That's a good trade.
Yeah, it's I forget if it's 10.5, 11.5, or like 12-year versus his being the 14-year, the one that we tried. And obviously that neck pour is going to be an oak bomb no matter what we do. But again, it's going to air out similar to the one that we tried, and I'm going to fucking love it after a month.
Oh yeah, no, like anything that's...
That'll be the one where I'll open it up, and because it's weeded, I'll pour a 2-ounce pour in my infinity bottle, leave it like that, and I'll enjoy the fuck out of it in a month. And I'll just leave it be for a while because I have other stuff I can sip on until that reaches its point where I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
no, let's move on to we're doing the Maker's Cask next.
Yeah, plain Maker's Cask. Would you like whiskey, Elise?
So
I poured this way heavier than I wanted to. Too.
I know, so did I.
So the light pour this time.
Yeah, so we're looking at now the regular Maker's Mark cask strength. So
Smells like Maker's Mark.
I get cake batter, oddly enough. It's like bready. It's bready and yeasty.
It's like I wouldn't even call it cake batter. It almost smells like a white cake.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like it's bready, which I did not expect from this.
Right.
And then it still has cinnamon and like vanilla and all of that, but like, yeah, no, cake batter.
I was gonna say in this one the brown sugar is the least of the traditional sweeter bourbon notes.
Yeah, there's no caramel, very little brown sugar.
It's all vanilla and cinnamon.
Vanilla, cinnamon, cake batter, breadiness, like, yeah.
You don't get any of the cake batter on the taste.
No, not at all.
None.
No, but you don't get nearly as much of that Maker's Mark heat, considering
You really don't, which
Yeah,
is
it's
kind of
really
surprising.
You get like no heat with this. It's weird.
That's the thing
So the heat is like on your tongue, but it goes away quickly and it doesn't go down to your chest or anything.
No, like,
It stops.
regular Maker's Mark at 90 proof is hotter than this.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because that's like when they cut it, you lose some of the flavor that sort of drowns that out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's probably the same amount of heat, but there's way more flavor on this.
Right, so it feels lighter when it's realistically not really any lighter.
But it has a really thick mouthfeel, ton of vanilla, ton of brown, like, there's no brown sugar on the nose, but there's a
It's
ton
all
on the
here.
taste.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a
The
dessert
vanilla is the
bourbon.
only super consistent from nose through palate.
Yeah. Like, this is, I would not call this a dessert bourbon, but this is a very, very sweet bourbon. Like, it's got vanilla.
It would definitely pair with spicier foods pretty well.
I would say so.
Usually sweeter pairs with spicy. I wouldn't call it a dessert bourbon, but it's one that would be really good with, like, if you make some nice hot chicken or some spicy wings. This is the kind of, if you want a sweet and but complex bourbon that would pair well with it, I'd say something like this.
I don't know if I would. Well, it is kind of complex, I guess, because like the palate, it's vanilla, brown sugar, cherry. And
It's complex because I guess of the way it interacts with each other more.
I would say so, yeah.
Or the way that it does it all without really having the heat for the proof, which is also not necessarily normal. The 107 definitely had more heat than this.
Yeah, but this does finish like. It finishes slightly drier, but rather than like dry like the Weller Antique was, where you
And it's not dry like the 101 has a very dry finish.
Oh, the 101 is dry no matter like the entire way through.
This doesn't really pick up any of that.
No, this is like
and it's the same with the regular Makers. That's also has a decent dryness and a bite to it.
to an extent.
It's interesting how with Makers it seems that adding the water adds more of that dry. Like it doesn't get rid of that part of it. It gets rid of the flavors,
the sweetness, and because you have this on the palate. It's like cherry, brown sugar, and vanilla, and those are like the three core
this makes me
flavors.
want to not have regular Makers anymore and just want to always have the cask strength on hand because it's.
This is way better than regular Makers.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, the fact that, like, I understand why people weren't spending $55 on this, but now that it's going back down to $40, I would buy this in a heartbeat every single time I saw it.
And especially compare this to the regular 46. $3 more to get this.
They're comparable. Like, they
I like the
compete with each
46,
other.
but they're comparable. They're also very different proof points, which is worth noting.
They're very different proof points, but they're also very different in flavor profiles, too, because...
Right, because the 46 kind of starts to pick up what this does because it ages longer.
Yeah. And...
The two ways that you can typically get more flavor is to age something longer to change the flavor, or cut it less to change the flavor. And so they're sort of similar because they sort of have different takes at getting a different flavor, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And now that I'm tasting this more, the front end is vanilla, brown sugar, and cherry. The finish is pipe tobacco, vanilla, and, like, sweet cinnamon. Not like cinnamon bark, but like cinnamon, red hot cinnamon.
Yeah.
And that's why I like this, because I like the cinnamon, but I like that it's not, like, bitter cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not a lot of bitterness in this, which isn't... Maker's Mark does have a lot of bitterness to it.
Right, that's just characteristic of the mash bill.
Yes,
And the way they age it.
Which their cast strength does not have it. Their cast strength has a
which is
little
interesting
bitterness,
because
but
most of their products have it.
Yes.
Like it's a signature thing for a reason, but this just doesn't.
and For their Private Select and 46 cask, which we're going to get to later, that also doesn't have the bitterness, which is weird to me, but I'm happy with it because I don't really buy any of the lower proof Maker's Mark anymore, except for the 46, because I'll put that on a big rock.
I have the regular just because I have the soft spot for it. It makes a good cocktail. And every once in a while, I want to have a little sip of it just because it's what I started on.
The reason
so I'll have that nostalgic moment where I want to have a little sip of what got me into whiskey.
The reason why, like, I bought my last 2 bottles and they have been sitting for over a year is mostly because I can get it at literally any bar I go to.
Exactly.
Which is why
that's the other thing, is so readily available. I've never seen anywhere ever run out of Maker's Mark. No. It's just not a thing. It's so they make so much of it,
and they blend it all to taste. There is there's no set point for it. They make it all in small batches, and every small batch is like, we want consistency. We want it to taste the same all the time. So
right. And of course, obviously, when you're doing your base whiskey, the proof's going to be about the same no matter what you do because you're mixing up so much stuff that you're going to get it to taste without changing the proof.
Yeah.
That's why you notice that their higher proof stuff, when it's more consistent, like the cask strength, is different in proof because they're making it to taste with smaller amounts and without cutting it. Mm-hmm. So they want it to be a certain taste without having to cut it.
Yeah.
One batch will be 108, the other could be 112 or 113, and it just kind of depends.
Yeah, because you know that they're just picking specific barrels to do this with. Because
right.
They're like, all these are going to be the same. It's all going to go down to 90
or like
proof.
1 to 2 barrels.
Yeah. Like, for all of these, like, cask strength offerings, you know they're picking, like, the best barrels for it because that's what they want to show for this higher-end product.
Right.
The lower-end product, they're going to take every other barrel they have, mix it together, and water it down to 90.
Because they're making it to taste, so that's where they can waste the stuff that's not as good because it doesn't need to be as good.
And I will give Maker's Mark this. Their lower-proofed offerings, I've never tasted a Maker's Mark where I was like, this doesn't taste like, a usual 90 proof Maker's Mark.
Right.
It always tastes the same. Always. It's not like when Knob Creek changed from 9-year to non-age statement back to 9-year.
You can taste slight variations.
Those three different offerings all tasted a little different. Maker's Mark has never tasted different.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had multiple different bottles of Maker's Mark, and you could tell me that you could pour me a glass from each one, tell me it was all from the same, and I would not doubt you.
Yeah. Like Maker's...
I can't wait to do the comparison of the cask strengths, because we might find the same thing there. Where
I am curious about that, because I don't know which batch I have.
We'll have to do it as a blind, where only one of us knows which one it is, and that's probably the best way to see if it actually has any difference.
Because I genuinely don't know if I have the same badges as you, or
don't.
If I have 2020-02. Yours is 2020-03, right? 2020-02. I don't know which ones mine are.
You got yours significantly before I did.
So then mine are probably 2020-01.
I got mine late 2020.
Then mine are probably 2020-01. Potentially.
Or it could be 2019, whatever the last one for 2019 was even.
Well, no, because 2020 is when they rebranded their bottles.
Okay, so it is a 2020.
It is a 2020. I know that.
I know yours was a different proof, though. Yours is like 108 or something.
I think so. I have to take another look. I haven't looked at it.
I would bet you it's 01.
Okay.
But that being said...
No, so far this is my favorite one that I've had so far tonight.
I was going to say, I'm biased. I still like this more, but I like them for different reasons, so it's hard for me to personally compare.
I'm gonna put that on a different spectrum just because it's finished.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But, yeah, in terms of the weeders, this one's winning. So now we're going to take a look at the Maker's 46 cask strength. So...
What's the proof on this guy?
It is...
I want to say 110...
109.6.
Okay.
So basically the same as the last guy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's within 1 proof point.
This is definitely fruitier. A lot more cherry.
Yeah, I get a lot of cherry.
That's why I called it a cherry bomb the moment I sniffed it. It's cherry.
It definitely is raspberry too, I would say. Because maraschino cherry has that really bright flavor, but this has some like darker berry notes too, which is why I say raspberry.
Could even be like black cherry.
Or almost a black cherry. Yeah.
You still get a little bit of the cinnamon.
A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of brown
toffee,
sugar,
a little bit of brown sugar.
Yeah,
little oak, but again, it's extra aged, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And the oak is still definitely being overpowered by it. It's all, like...
Yeah.
If you... The first thing you get on the nose, no matter what, is the berries.
And there's also no heat or ethanol, either.
Right.
So, like...
Which, again, at 110 proof, that's when it starts getting more surprising that you don't get any heat on the nose.
It's hotter than the cask, but, like, in a good way, almost.
And you get so much cherry on the
There's a lot of cherry
too.
on that, and it's a lot hotter than the regular cask.
If you want me to be honest, it reminds me a lot of the 2020 limited edition.
It does. Aside from the limited edition, I didn't get nearly this much cherry.
Yes.
I got just as much cherry, but less heat on the 2020. So
We'll have to, when we do the makers lineup, we'll be able to tell definitively, because I haven't tried them side by side.
which we should be able to do at some point in April, because I'm going to Boston to get my 2 extra private selects for my friend.
Different store pick.
Maybe by then the 2021.
Maybe by then we'll have the FAE one too, one of us.
Yeah, as soon as you find out, I'm buying 2
I was saying,
bottles of it.
I will be buying a bottle the second that comes out.
As well. All right. So I'm saving a case. Got it.
Yes, save a case, because I'm
Save
buying
a case
2.
because I know at least the 3 of us, and I have 2 buddies who will buy 1. So I should just save a case when we get it.
Save a case.
Anytime some Maker's Mark comes out with something, I want 2 bottles of it.
I understand.
Because if I like it that much, I want to bottle the bunker.
Right.
And so far, every bottle I have bought, I'm happy that I have a bunkered bottle.
Right.
Except for the 101, which is why I'm trading it.
Right.
Which
But the 101 is an interesting one where
I
it
was
behaves weird. I love the neck pour. I wish it stayed like the neck pour. I still like it enough to keep it personally, but the neck pour, if it were like that, it would replace any other regularly available Maker's product.
I think I'm gonna buy 1 more bottle of it at some point down the road, but like after that,
You gotta like buy it and you gotta like drink it quick enough that the air doesn't get to it.
yeah, that's one of those ones where like you drink like a heavy pour every day of the week so that it's gone by the end of the week,
Mm-hmm.
and then
So that you get to actually enjoy the whole bottle.
yeah, because I let it sit for a month and it turned into a hot fucking mess.
Right. I liked it still, but again, I know that's where our taste starts to vary, is in some of that kind of stuff. Where heat doesn't bother me, but I know that depending on how it is, heat can really change it for you.
I like heat as long as the flavor is there to back it up, which is why I loved Stag Junior so much. Because there was a lot of heat, but there was a ton of flavor to go with it. Maker's
Right.
101 had the heat of this without the flavor.
Right. Yeah, hang on, sorry, 1 second. Why are you commenting on shit? I don't know why I got a notification that you commented on something I never even saw, but...
My sincere apologies for Facebook commenting on a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah, fuck you.
Fucking dick.
Sorry,
So,
I'm such an asshole.
This
But-
one is weird because the regular 46, I get a ton of like rum notes and like hot
And you don't
buttered
get
rum
it at
notes.
all here.
There's no rum, there's no butter, there's no...
It's all the... This is the only Maker's product I've had, aside from... Again, I have to revisit the wood finish, that gets the cherry that's typical of a winter wheat.
Yeah.
Because the 1792 sweet wheat is a winter wheat, and that was a cherry bomb.
Yes.
Like, way more than anything else you've had here. And it's really interesting that only the 46 cask and maybe the wood finish have had that. Makes me wonder how the extra aging affected it that much to do that.
It makes me really, really anxious, well, eager, I should say, to do the Maker's lineup, which ideally will be next month after I visit my friend in Boston. Great fucking guy. I can't wait to drink beer with him again because he was like, the way that we talk about whiskey was how I talked about beer with him.
Nice.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing him again soon. But yeah, I gotta crack open 1 bottle of that.
And even, I was going to say, we could definitely hold off on the Maker's lineup long enough to do that. We have other lineups we can do. The next one could be the double oak.
Yeah, we should
Because
do
we
the
got
double
enough
oak
for
next week.
we got enough for a good double oak lineup.
And then
And we would try nothing new because we got all double oaks.
But also, actually, I'm gonna save that note for whenever we do the larceny. Never mind.
Yeah.
Ignore the thing I was about to say. You'll hear it later.
But this is like...
I feel like as I'm sipping this more, it gets a lot less hot.
Yeah. No,
the air definitely mellows it out.
For sure,
But it doesn't take away the flavor, it just takes away the heat. The flavor to me didn't change at all.
Absolutely, that the first sip had a lot of fucking heat, and this just it is completely melted.
Well, I feel like a drop of water, if you wanted to drink it right off the bat, would get rid of that heat as well. Or letting it air like we just did.
Well, that's the thing. I'm worried about adding water to it, just seeing what happens to regular makers and Makers 101.
Right.
Because watering it down actually doesn't help it. However,
Right.
I might put it on an ice cube to see what it does.
Right. It's one where I would take a very small amount to try it.
Yeah. I'd like to see what happens whenever you chill this a little more. I don't believe in whiskey rocks, so like putting it on one ice cube might help it. But that being said, I would still drink this neat. Like, yeah, I'm happy with what I got.
100%. It makes me regret not buying it when it came in. It was only $60.
That was what I spent whenever I went to Ohio. Whenever I went to Ohio, I bought 2 bottles of this, 2 bottles of Maker's Cask, and
at least I know I can get Maker's Cask very regularly if I go to Ohio.
Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere in Ohio.
And it's coming back in PA, so that's a added plus. When it'll show up, I don't know. It's in our system again. And it's showing as a regular product in our little list that shows all the regular products. So soon, hopefully. But
yeah, there's definitely the pluses and minuses of PA being a...
I do want to go to the Center Avenue store and buy one of the pints. Because those pints are like 3 or 4 years old. They're on Maker's Cask. They're on stuff for 27 or 28.
I didn't even know that they had pints of it.
Yeah, because when I went to go buy it, I was asking you, like, should I buy a pint of it? And you're like, no, go to Ohio, you can get a 5th of it for $40.
Oh yeah, no, you weren't clear about that.
Oh.
You were not clear about that at all.
I definitely said they were on clearance for 27.
You said that, but you didn't say how old they were.
They're on clearance, bro. They've been... How long has it been since you've seen them in most stores? That's how long they've been on clearance.
Although we do have to make a point in saying that would be an experiment where we prove that Maker's Mark just makes super, super, super consistent product.
Right, we would be buying one that's 3-4 years old to buy one that's 3-4 years old and find out that it tastes very little difference to this.
You find that it has maybe a little more cherry, maybe a little more vanilla, maybe a little more cinnamon, or like one of the notes that.
But the heat won't change, and like the underlying bourbon notes will not change at all.
Yeah, you're probably gonna find like one.
There'll maybe be a slightly different balance.
Yeah, there's probably gonna be a slightly different balance, but for the most part, everything is maybe like a 5 or a 6 or a 4. You might just alter around what the 5, 6s, and 4s are.
Right.
Because
they'll all be there. It's just one's gonna stick out a tiny bit more.
Yeah. Something might have been a 4 in that bottle. That's a 4 in the other, and a 6 in a different flavor note.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, right now I think I would still pick the regular Maker's Cask. If I'm being honest.
It was less hot.
Keeping price in mind. Again, heat doesn't bother me, but the flavors that I got from the Maker's Cask, I did like a little bit more, because I'm not the biggest fan. I like cherry notes on a whiskey, but like, there was a lot, like, I wish that it was a little bit more balanced, like the regular Maker's was. But, I mean, it's definitely worth the $60, and I'm mad I don't have a bottle.
I don't disagree.
Alright, so now the last one is definitely the most potent, because we're jumping up 15 proof points here.
This is 123, right?
122.6.
I think so. That sounds right. Whenever I had it, it looked like it was 122 something.
122.2.
Okay.
So yes, it's...
You get ethanol in the nose.
I do get a little bit, yeah.
But whenever it's 60% alcohol, you kind of expect that.
Yeah. I was going to say we're also talking a significant jump, so that's not too surprising.
You do get vanilla. I get like peanut and hazelnut.
I get
a little bit of brown sugar, maybe caramel.
I get a very light hint of dark berry, but it's not like, it's almost like it's a blackberry, not like raspberry or cherry or anything like that. It's not like one that we've had previously.
Yeah, you say blackberry, I say blueberry, because blueberry is the faintest
I can see
berry
that.
note I get.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's like faintly sweet, faintly savory, ethanol, a little bit fruity.
A little bit oaky.
And then that, like I know that I mentioned nail polish before, but it's not on the nose at all.
Yeah, you get a little ethanol, but you don't get like rubbing alcohol or like that kind of alcohol.
Yeah.
Maybe on the neck pour we did, but not anymore. Peanut. A lot of peanut.
Peanut.
A lot of peanut.
Sweet. I do get nail polish on this still.
I
don't get it.
I don't either.
Yeah, I get the same, like...
Peanut is, like, so prevalent to me. Like, it's the only thing that aside from the warmth, it's sticking around the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And in fact, if anything, on the palate, like, as the finish kind of lingers, you almost taste it more on your tongue as it lingers than you did when you were sipping it.
God, that is so peanut.
Like, it's interesting to think, this is one of the more peanut-heavy things I've had. And this isn't a Jim Beam product, which is what's really interesting about it.
It's a different kind of peanut. Like, you get like a musty, dry peanut from Jim Beam. This is more of like a fresh...
This is almost like a peanut butter.
Yeah, but...
Or like
a roasted peanut. Almost.
Or like a roasted peanut, yeah.
It
almost tastes like you're going into Five Guys and you're getting the peanuts out of the box.
Yeah.
This isn't like the almost... I guess Jim Beam I would almost describe more as a peanut shell. It has the aroma of it, but it doesn't necessarily have that, aside from some of the Booker stuff and some of the high proof stuff, it doesn't have that super distinct peanut taste. It has more of like it's reminiscent. This tastes like you took a peanut and took a bite out of it.
Like the meat of a peanut, yeah.
Yeah.
I get that, but I still get nail polish.
This is definitely where our taste starts to differ.
And that's why I'm happy I traded it, because like there's a lot to like about it, but
if I was gonna say if your taste buds are tuned to where that little thing sticks out enough, it's just like you with the Overholt 114. Like we didn't get that the black cherry tasted cough medicine-y at all.
Yeah, no, it's.
But you said that's all you got, so I think that's where we start to notice the taste bud difference.
Yeah, to me it literally tasted like I took. If I would have taken Robitussin and poured a little bit of whiskey into it, that is what Old Overholt 114
tasted like. Yeah, we did not get that at all.
I didn't get that at all.
We thought it was brilliant for the price. So like.
And again, I'm more than happy to try it again to change my mind, but that's what I got. And
I think we're noticing a similar case here, where this is one of those few spots where our taste really starts to differ.
I think that based on what I saw,
certain things stick out.
There was a couple reviews where I saw people say that they were not a fans of Larceny B520 because there was like a weird note to them. It didn't taste super sweet. It didn't excite them.
Do you think you're one of those people that is getting that note from it?
Yes, because those same people said that Larceny A121 was like a dessert bourbon, super sweet, super vanilla, super brown sugar.
And that's not what I've heard from most people.
No, but like the reviews I saw said that, yeah, A121, B520, and C920 did not excite me, but A21 excites me. That's why I really want to try A121.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely get that then, because this is definitely more of a peanut bomb than when we first tried it.
Oh, 100%. That peanut has definitely strengthened in the time since. When did we first try this? Probably January?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I get the peanut, but the note that made me want to trade this bottle in the first place is there, and it sticks.
I after trying a little more, I kind of see what you're talking about. That's not how it comes across to me, though. So that's where I think it's a palate thing, because and that is something to keep in mind, where depending on how your palate's tuned, you may or may not like the more nuanced stuff like this, and this is a perfect example. But if you're like me and Ryan, this is fucking perfect, and the amount of peanut that you get on this, I love. Because this is like, with this amount of peanut, this to me is like the poor man's Bookers, where like,
yeah, I can see that.
Or the poor man's Little Book, like was it the 3 or the 4 that we tried that was super super peanutty?
Both of them were pretty peanutty.
Well, there was one that literally the finish was peanut butter.
That was
I wanna
Booker.
say it
That
was-
was that was Booker's or Granny's batch.
Was it? Okay, yeah.
That was Booker's or
Okay,
Granny's
that
batch.
sounds about right then.
Which I absolutely fucking adore. I love Granny's batch. I'm actually buying another bottle of it.
I don't even blame you.
I'm importing it from, I think, New York.
I
but-
don't even blame you.
Is it imported to the same country? I don't know.
And
With PA, I would count it as
Fair.
importing to
State-
PA.
That's fair.
across state lines, I call it an import into the
In
state.
our lovely Commonwealth.
Yeah, PA
It
is
has its
fucking
upsides
ridiculous.
and downsides, and its downsides is if you want to get shit like that. But
I like this significantly better with some water.
I feel like I don't even want to add water because I love it as it
Okay, I
is, and I
like
feel like
this.
water will take away from me personally.
For you personally, it probably will take away from me.
But
just
it doesn't get
add
rid
it
of
to
doesn't
it.
get rid of that nail polish note, or at least
Significantly.
At least mutes it.
Significantly it muted it.
So then there's a good note for anyone who wants to try this then, is that if you get that nail polish note, add a little water, and you might start to taste it more like me and Ryan are tasting it, where
It's sweeter. I still get a ton of peanut. It's a little astringent, so it's kind of dry, but
again,
the
I think
nail polish
I
is
think
gone.
part of that dryness comes from the proof.
Yeah.
When you start to get into this proof, you're almost to the point where you want to add a little bit of water. Because
I'm wondering if that's more the age thing, because I don't know how old Larceny is.
that's also true.
Like, nobody really knows how old Larceny is, because they haven't even said, like, it's a blend of, like, 5 to 7 year. Nobody knows how old Larceny is.
Now, it can't be too young, obviously, because we don't, even regular larceny, you don't get any of the notes that you get from something super young.
No.
It's got to be at least a standard aged whiskey.
Yeah, no, it's at least 4 years.
It's at least like what 4 to 7 probably is where I'd have to put it in.
So if it's below 4 years, you have to say that, no. If it's below 2 years, you have to say that. But if it's bottled and bond, yeah, no, I actually have no idea what the age is for it whatsoever.
Right, because, well, I mean, just in terms of the taste, it doesn't taste like it could be any younger than 4 years, but it also, the regular larceny doesn't taste nuanced enough to be beyond 6 or 7. It reminds me of like a Buffalo Trace, but weeded. That makes sense, like in terms of quality and in terms of the
They'll
taste.
put it
of
between 4 and 6, yeah.
So I'd probably put it closer to the 6 than the 4, but we don't know, and we probably won't know because they probably won't tell us.
It's probably between 4 and 6, because if it's at least 7, people usually want to say, hey, this is a 7-year age statement. Cause,
Right, because that's when they want to start advertising
Yeah.
their age. So, but that being said, this just goes to show that even a relatively young bourbon, if you leave it uncut, it's amazing the difference it can make.
Oh, yeah.
Because this tastes, I mean, we tried the larceny, and like, I'm the only one who really enjoyed regular larceny for what
I
it
just
was.
don't like it.
But this is like, I'd be pressed to put it in my top 5 of all time, personally. And adding a little water, I'm sure, helps you at least be able to see where we're coming from with it.
No,
too.
I agree with that. Like, because I remember the last time we had it, both of you said that was your either number 1 or number 2.
I think I put it very close to number 2 behind the Rebel Yell when we had it. Because
Oh,
we had
whenever I
those
had the
both
Rebel Yell,
same
that was
day.
number 1 for me.
Yeah,
That Rebel
and I
Yell
think
was-
that's the only reason this wasn't number 1, because that Rebel Yell was something special.
Which is why I've been slowly
Yeah.
getting with that. That's one of those slow drinkers where I have like a half pour of it and then I drink something else. Cause
Yeah. It's the one you want to start off with and then not waste it on less refined palate.
Yes.
That's how that is for me. Because this, I don't want to waste this because that peanut note is too good to me. Personally.
That's a Heaven Hill thing. Heaven Hill has a similar nutty note to Jim Beam. Not necessarily because they're just similar, but literally because Jim Beam helped rebuild Heaven Hill Distillery.
Right.
So they have a similar... If you went back probably like 50 years, they have the same yeast strain,
Mm-hmm.
but Jim Beam's has probably mutated differently than what Heaven Hill's is mutated.
Right, so it's gonna be reminiscent. And it obvious that it came from somewhere similar, but it's not gonna... takes on its own nuances back.
Yes, because I can explain like chemical differences because they're both chemically different, but biologically speaking,
They
went
probably
through.
came from a similar place. It's
They
not
went
the
through.
same.
They came from the same place, but like evolution happens differently over the course of like 40, 50 years,
Right.
which is what happened.
Yep.
So
All it takes is being even across town, and
yeah,
it won't be the same.
exactly.
Even across a rick house, it won't be the exact same.
That's not true because
Right.
across a wreck house, that's just an aging thing. They take the same distillate from the exact same place, but if you're distilling from multiple different buildings, yeah, that'll be different.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess I meant distillery, not rick house.
Yes,
That
yes.
was
If
that
a
was a
distillery, yes.
that was a misspeak on my part. Yeah.
Yeah, wreck house is more so like what does a barrel do to whiskey?
Right, and that's the very specific part of the building. That's not just the whole.
yes.
Yeah.
So
And that's why you get because obviously mash bill number 1 and 2 aren't necessarily aged in the exact same part of the building in Buffalo Trace's distillery.
yeah,
And that's why even though the strains are very similar, the mash bills aren't that different. One's just slightly higher rye. They're so significantly different in taste.
oh yeah. And that's why I'm really happy that you enjoyed this larceny so much because this does for you what Johnny Drum does for me.
Right.
Although, oddly enough, whenever I looked at the bottle again, I realized that it was it wasn't wax sealed. It was sticker sealed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what that does to it because I've seen a lot of bottles that are wax sealed with copper wax.
Mm-hmm.
Yours was like a copper sticker rip
Right.
off thing.
Right.
So I don't know what that means. I'm curious to see what that means, but
Right.
nobody has any answers to that because I've tried finding it and
See,
nobody can
and
say anything about
So,
that.
what's everyone's verdict on this lineup then?
If I had to say anything, I think I would pick Maker's Mark Cask Strength out of all of these.
I agree.
That for me is a very, very close second, but that's again because you know how much I love this larceny.
Larceny is your favorite brand, and I get that.
The peanut notes are just something that the Maker's Mark comes just short of for me.
See, I think the larceny would be probably my second choice.
Then I put I actually, believe it or not, for how much I like Weller Special Reserve for the price, I think I put the Weller Antique, even the store pick, last of the four.
I'd agree.
Again, that's not even saying it's bad. I still think I would put it last. If not, I would flip-flop between that and the... I know you're considering the larceny because the larceny is not so much your thing. But...
If I had to pick, I think I would put Maker's Mark, like plain cask,
Mm-hmm.
Old Weller Antique,
Okay.
and then I think the third place and fourth place battles it out between Larceny and 46 Cask.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I like plain 46 better than 46 Cask.
I could definitely see
I
that.
can see how you could, yeah.
And I can't wait till we do a Maker's lineup so we can compare the two directly.
And the
That's
reason
gonna be
why
a
I
long
say
fucking lineup.
Maker's 46, Maker's Cask, Maker's 46 Cask, two different private selects, and the wood finish.
And
If not,
hopefully-
the second wood
Let's see, and
finish by
hopefully
then.
you're
second
forgetting
wood
RC6. I have RC6. I've told you that numerous times, and you keep forgetting about
I
that.
do keep forgetting because I haven't had RC6 yet.
I haven't opened it yet.
Then that's one that save that for the Maker's
Save for
lineup.
lineup.
Save it for the lineup.
I am saving it for the lineup. I have not opened it for RC6 yet, but you keep forgetting that I have it.
I do keep forgetting because I didn't actually I swear I've never known that, but I probably have and
I've told you 3 different times,
This sounds about right.
That tracks.
but I have not opened it yet, so I understand why.
Yeah, that I guarantee you that's why because you haven't had it either.
That being said, it does make me curious because
But for me personally, I think Larceny number 1, very 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 close second is Maker's Cask.
yep,
Then probably the Maker's 46 Cask because I like that cherry note a lot.
yep.
And then Old Leather Antique, the store pick. But that's not saying any of them are bad. I put them all very, very high on my list of things I've tried.
Yeah.
That's probably the order I'd put these in personally, having tried them all just now.
Yeah,
I'd say mine's the same except for Flip Flop, Larceny, and Maker's Cask. I think Maker's Cask Strength was my favorite. Larceny was a close second. I know you and I both really liked the Larceny a lot. I love the peanut note on that. And then Weller, as much as I love Weller, I think it's the last one out of these.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is the point where I think we can all agree that these are all really good. It's just up to our personal taste where we rank them in at this point.
And that's where, like, palate comes into it, because, like, we can all objectively say these are all really good whiskeys.
But, like, obviously, like, we're going to like Larceny more because we don't get that sort of slight nail polish note to it that you did.
Oh, yeah, no, like, I would definitely say that I think that Larceny is my least favorite. It's tied with Old Weller Antique, but it's there. Like, I think that...
I also know we're all pretty biased for Maker's Mark. We all like Maker's Mark.
We're all Maker's Mark people. Yes.
I don't want to say biased, but I know we all have been a fan of everything we've tried, too.
I've got to say, my two favorite brands are currently Maker's Mark and Knob Creek. Because Maker's Mark cask... It is
good luck
not
finding another $40 bottle that good.
I can't think of one. I literally cannot think of one.
Because you look and, like, the only other one that's $40 here was the Weller Antique store pick. And I don't think I'd pick that I wouldn't pick it over the cask strength.
The only reason I would pick it over the cask strength is just the fact that it's that hard to find at $40.
I mean, fair. If we're saying, let's say all four of these are readily available.
Okay.
At $40, easily the cask strength makers.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also got to look that a $10 price difference can mean drastic differences in taste and in quality.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, you're jumping to $50 for the Larceny, you're jumping to $60 for the Maker's 46 cask strength. So, like, that alone can really influence your decision on what you would pick out of these two.
Without a doubt.
Because, like, obviously the Maker's cask is by far the most available here. The Old Weather Antique would be second, but not the store pick.
Yes.
Then the Maker's cask, or 46 cask. The Larceny is the hardest to find.
I think it's only really hard to find just because PA has not gotten a ton of it.
It also, I mean, in general, because of the bourbon boom, it sells out like crazy too. That is something to keep in mind.
I want to call it that. I want to call that the secondary bourbon boom because think about it. Larceny Barrel Proof sat on shelves until
reviews came out saying it was really good.
Which I want to say was like November of last year. Like
The B520 sat on our shelves for a month and a half.
It did.
And then you noticed immediately people came asking for it the moment it won something. And I'll be honest, like, if you wouldn't have bought it for me to, and I wouldn't have tried it, I probably wouldn't have dumped the money not knowing what it was going to be like. Now, obviously, knowing how it's like now, I'd dump money on every fucking bottle, every different batch that comes out.
Yeah.
But, like, I want the 8121 so bad.
I'm right.
I know you do too because of the what the reviews have said about the differences.
Every single review that I have read from Reddit has said that they were people who they weren't thrilled about this year's batches between.
You also have to keep in mind that this past year's batches were brand new. This is a new thing.
Oh yeah, no. A120.
Like the 20s were literally the first batches.
Every single review I heard had said that A120 was atrocious because it was the first batch.
But then you also notice that it has gotten better.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
Like I've seen, at first people were saying B520 was easily the best. Then people were saying C520 was the best for a little while, and then B520 took back over, and now people are like revisiting the A120, and it turned out to be some people's favorite and some people's second place. Some people still like B520 the best. Like
Larceny right now, because of how their barrel proof is run, it's very contentious. But the reason why I'm so interested in A121 is because the same people said that they liked B520, but it didn't impress them and it didn't thrill them.
Which is where you fall, correct?
Yes. I liked it, but it didn't thrill me and it didn't
Like you don't
it
regret
out of
it,
the wall.
but obviously you prefer it taste a little different than it.
If I kept this bottle, I could have drank it and been like, yeah, this was good. It was a good $50 bottle. But those same people who said those things about that...
Say that the A121's a great $50 bottle.
Yes, which is why I'm interested in it, because I feel like it would go to me better.
Like, you would probably like the A121 more than I would.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I like we like the B520 more than you do.
And that's the weird thing about whiskey is that palate does play a huge role in it because...
That's why when people are like, oh, this $60 bottle's trash, it's like, I will never say that because it depends on your taste. Too much for me to say it's bad.
People can objectively say that a $60 bottle is good, but there's going to be people who appreciate it so much more than other people.
And there's going to be other people who are going to be like, I would never pay the $60 for this. And it's like, that's just how your taste is. Like, us with the Widow Jane, there's definitely people who like it. We don't. I would not pay that money. There's definitely people who pay that money and enjoy it. I know for a fact I sell it like crazy at my store. I never, ever, ever, ever would pay $70 for that bottle. But there's a lot of people who would.
I'm genuinely curious about the people who... Because I have to say, there is a divide in the bourbon community between people who appreciate bourbon and people who are buying it because it's hype. Because it's a hype thing.
Hype, money, any number.
And I genuinely wonder how many people are buying Widow Jane because they're like, oh, it's a pricey bottle. It's got to be good.
Right. They're conditioning themselves to think that it's good because of the cost, even if it's not that good.
And that's what I wonder because there's so many variables with bourbon right now.
Right. And that's also why that's why any bourbon really at this point can be successful enough to continue making what they're making. Because they're going to appeal to somebody. Whether it's because of cost, taste, a combination, any number of things.
And that's the thing about Thomas More. Like, they picked the perfect price point for what they are offering. And
they picked things that are just interesting enough to draw people in. I mean, they drew me in because it said it was a Chardonnay cask. And I hadn't had any Chardonnay cask, and I looked at some flavor notes that I'd seen, and it looked interesting. I tried it, and I'm so fucking glad I bought it. But that won't always be the case, and again, there are other people, like when I posted about it, that said they thought it was a drain pour to them. It's all up to taste. We all really, really liked it, but obviously not everyone's gonna.
And that's the thing, like, I like when big distilleries make experiments, because usually they know what they're doing.
This is a good example, 1792, finally diving into that.
But you have a ton of craft whiskeys, they do experiments, but it's like, this shit is not old enough for you to be fucking experimenting with.
Let's do an example. Great. That Altered State.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did kind of like that, but that Altered State was a really good example of a young whiskey with a really interesting experiment.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good, but again, it's hit or miss.
I also would have liked to have tasted that whenever it was brand new.
Right. And not having aired out for however long you had it open. I don't know how long you had that open.
Longer than...
It had to be at least 6 months, right?
I say for 6 to 8 months before.
Because your girlfriend bought it, right?
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend bought it for me, so.
Because that's the thing about, like the, for example, the New Holland Beer Barrel. Whenever I first got that was hot as fuck.
And then when you had me try that last little bit of it, I loved it.
Yeah, no.
And it had no heat to it.
Yeah, no, after letting that air out, that was absolutely fucking delicious.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. And I would buy another bottle of it.
If it were around, it was on clearance in PA. That's what sucked.
That would be one of those bottles where, like, I would literally open it up, pull the cork off for like an hour, let it sit, seal it back up, and let it sit for another month. That's that kind of bottle.
Because you need that air for some of them.
Because it helped it way more than you would think.
And I'm sure there are people who could just drink it as it was and would enjoy it. But again, that's where the whole everyone's palate's different comes in.
Thing is weird. Because there are some whiskeys that every single individual will be like, this is great.
And that's why that's where I can kind of get why some people will pay $500 for Blanton's. Because for some people, to their taste, that's perfect to them. We're very much not those people. But again, there are people who are willing to pay it. So it makes sense.
Well,
again,
I mean, if you have that much money to blow...
I wish I had that much money to blow on fucking whiskey.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, you get what I'm saying, though. Like,
if I could blow $600 on Blanton's, I can only imagine the money I would blow.
I would buy, like, 3 bottles of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof on secondary before I bought a bottle of Blanton's.
For sure.
But that's to my taste. But again, This just goes to show how much taste is different, and that's why everything that we've ever said on any of these videos should be taken with a grain of salt.
That's why I can't wait to break into that bottle of B520. That little taster of 2 ounces of B520 I have.
The Elijah Craig?
Oh, yeah. Because you and I both, like, talked with, I think his name is Evan.
I don't think it's Evan.
I don't think it is either. I think it starts with an E, but I could be wrong.
It is. I will find it for you.
This video has gone on for way too long.
I don't care.
I think it's Evan.
26 minutes right now.
I don't care.
Who cares?
Enjoy your hour-long fucking video about 4
It's
bottles
Drew.
of whiskey.
Drew.
It's Drew. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, no,
Or-
Drew hooked me up with so many bottles because I hooked him up with so many fucking tasty things he wanted to try. That dude and I, like, talked for hours about Jim Beam because we
I
love
need
Jim
to add
Beam.
him and start chatting with him more because I've made so many friends, like on Facebook, through working at my store. Like people come in and we chat for a half hour and they're like, "Are you in any of the bourbon groups on Facebook?" I'm like, "Yeah, here, add me." And I met like 5 or 6 different people that way, and it's really fucking cool because then they ask about shit. I tell them when we get cool shit. They hook me up with samples of things. I get to try all this cool stuff.
I'll hook you up with people if you hook me up with people. I mean, I hooked you up with Drew. Let's be real. I did.
You did. I haven't really chatted with him since then, though, which is disappointing, because...
Yeah, no, I haven't, like, I spoke with him saying, like, yeah, I can't smell anything, so I'm not tasting anything. I haven't tasted any of the shit you gave me. He's like, boo, but
Right.
I can't help it, man. I'm sorry.
Right.
That being said, I have to ask him what he thought about Little Book Chapter 3 and 4 because he hasn't tasted any Little Books yet. So
I hadn't until you had me try them.
there's not many people who have tasted Little Book Chapter 3. I'm really happy I spent $300 on... Actually, I might buy another 300 bottle of Chapter 3. I'm not
I
gonna...
don't even blame you. I thoroughly enjoyed both of them.
I went back and tasted it again and got
Here,
better.
let's bring it back to the weeders for a second so I can end this.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, we all have our different... I mean, well, you two have your favorite. Your guys' favorite is my close second. But none of these were unenjoyable. These were all really good, and they're all worth that money.
I would say, yes, everything is worth its money. Larceny is $50. Maker's Mark, cask
It's
is
just
40.
worth looking at what we've said to see what you would like the best.
So, my recommendation would be look into
Maybe
the
start
different...
with the Maker's Cask, honestly.
Maker's Cask you can't go wrong with. Maker's
That
Cask
was up
at
in the
40.
top 2 for all 3 of us.
I think it's my number 1.
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
is.
it was yours and Ryan's number 1. It was my
Yes.
number 2, so top 2 for all.
For $40, that's the best. Old Weller Antique for $40. Buy it in a heartbeat. Larceny, look into which batch you're buying because
And look into the tasting notes and see if it's something you're going to like.
Yes, because there's a ton of variation with the Larceny barrel proof batches.
And especially if you're buying the 20s like this one is, keep in mind that they are brand new experiments to them.
Yes. So, like, we talked about how, like, B520 was a huge variation for all of us. Keep that in mind, because I want to try A121, but that may be terrible for Max.
Right. Knowing me, I'll still probably like it. I'll just like B520 more.
Yes. And then, Maker's cask strength, it is very different than regular's Maker's 46.
It's kind of, like, the way I see the Maker's Cask strengths is that they're what you wish the original one was, at least for regular Makers. For 46, it depends on your taste.
There's a ton more flavor in Maker's 46 cask, but I like the flavors that were available in regular Maker's 46.
Right.
Like if the hot buttered rum and like the buttery thick notes were amplified in 46 cask, that probably would have been my number 1.
Right.
Because
But that's something that sort of came with it, them watering it down.
yes, because regular 46.
Which again is interesting. Makers seems to be backwards in all of that, where watering it down changes it so differently than it does anything else.
Yeah, because regular 46, like it tastes like hot buttered rum, but it's a little hot, so you want to put it on a rock. 46 cask is totally different. Totally different.
Right, like I don't think it's too hot for a rock, but the flavor is so different.
Yes. And that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah. Do you express our similar sentiments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.